All right, I'm back. Let's gamble.
Cool. I actually had a question when I was like, hold that thought for a second. About four bet sizing. This is definitely something I am like totally no good at right now. I guess because I don't get a lot of practice with it because when people three bet, most of them are so strong I just fold. But I'll definitely need to get better at it against better players and eventually if I move up to 5-10. So anyways, like in your book, for instance, you have a lot of examples where it's a 5-10 game. Let's say somebody opens to 30 and then they get 3-bet to 100. So a lot of times like our opening size is 3x, right? It was 5-10, we 3x at 30. Our 3-bet size was more than 3x because that would have been 90, but we made it 100. But now all of a sudden, when we 4-bet, we don't 4-bet 3x. We usually like min raise it, or we just went to 250 or something from 100, 2.5x or something. Now, I guess it's because you don't want to expose more of your like I remember Bill told me something about trying not to put more than a quarter of your stack in or something because you don't want to put in more than that and then fold because even ace deuce offsuit has 30% against kings or something. I mean, blah blah blah, stuff like that. But I mean, in general, I mean, we're four betting a lot smaller. Can you explain that a little bit, like why four bet sizing is so much smaller than like opening and three betting and stuff?
So part of it has to do with stack size, and part of it has to do with leverage. So uh, the best advice I can give you is to four bet to 1/6 of your opponent's starting stack.
Okay.
1/6 of the effective stack. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do that because of stack sizes, what you need to do is make sure that your opponent cannot 3-bet or 4-bet to 1/6 of your stack. Okay.
Okay.
Now that's like probably something that is just it's so far out there that
for me to like to figure out right now without practice, but I'll get better.
So let's say that you're playing 50 cent a dollar, right? And you have a $120 stack. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're starting with 120 big blinds, right? You open the cutoff to $3. Your opponent goes up to 9 on the button, and then you 4-bet to $20. What just happened?
Okay, wait. Say it again. You open to.
You're playing 50 cent a dollar. You open to $3.
Okay.
The button
he makes it 20.
The button 3-bets you to $9 or $8.50. And then you 4-bet him up to $20 out of your $120 starting stack. What just happened?
So that is 1/6.
That's 1/6 of the effective stacks. Okay. Now tell me what your opponent's options are and why are they not good options right now?
Okay. So we started with 120. I've put 20 in so he can. If he wants to 5-bet, it's kind of awkward because he basically can only shove. So
Yeah.
he can't really.
Because what would happen if he 5-bet smaller?
Well, I would know that he's committed. He can't fold to me shoving over that. So
right. So by 5-betting smaller, he's pricing himself in, so he's still committed. It's the same as shoving.
So basically, I'm making it where if I'm bluffing, if my 4-bet is a bluff, I can get away from a shove, or I can easily get the value from a shove. But it's like I don't know. It's like I can still kind of get away from it, but he's paying me off when I have. He's more likely to pay me off when I have.
What you're doing is you're maximizing your leverage to a very extreme extent because basically you're risking 16% of your stack and forcing your opponent to risk 100% of his stack if he thinks you're bluffing.
Cool.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Maximum leverage, right? He needs to be right an overwhelming majority of the time to 5-bet all in as a bluff if he thinks you're light. Okay? So then what is his option if he decides that 5-betting isn't good?
To just call? Or
right.
Fold?
And what's wrong with calling in that spot?
Okay, this will be a little bit tougher, but let me think. So if he calls, is it that it caps his range? Is that what's wrong with it?
That's one of the reasons. What's another one?
Okay, so that means there would be 40 in the pot, and we have 80 behind. No, we have 100 behind, right?
Yes.
40 in the pot, we have 100 behind. I think you're trying to get me to say something like it's hard for him to defend something, and I don't know.
What does your range look like when you're 4-betting out of position?
Well, it should be polarized, right?
Yes, very polarized. So you're a lot of times you're not even 4-betting queens. So your range is aces, kings, ace, king, and then some random ace deuce through ace 5 suited hands, and that's it. Okay. So if you have aces, or if you have kings or ace king, you have the value component of that range. Your opponent's calling range, which is like queens, jacks, tens, ace king, ace queen suited, that range is crippled against your value range. Okay. It's crippled so bad that it like doesn't even have the right equity to call when it's getting 3-1. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So like, he's thinking he's getting 3-1 and he's in position, right? But to prove that he's right, to prove that you don't have aces, he's going to have to stick in 120 bigs. And like drawing almost dead, drawing to 2 outs. Okay, so you just have like so much leverage there. And it's a miserable spot for your opponent to be in because he 3-bet to a size that allowed you to 4-bet to 1/6 of his stack. That was a huge mistake.
Okay. So if he does,
I got to plug in my laptop.
Yeah.
But keep chatting.
Okay, if he does just call the $20 4-bet, and let's say we have ace 3 suited, and we just whiff the flop. Like, I mean, I know this wasn't really the question, but I mean, it just kind of led me to thinking about it. Because you have all that range advantage and everything, are you just much more likely to be like bombs away no matter what the flop is in that situation? Or are you still giving up on unfavorable boards and stuff?
Well, the great part about this is you're deliberately 4-betting with hands as a bluff that are valuable for a couple reasons. So, like, let's say that you just go crazy with ace 5 suited and 4-bet this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the first thing that happens? Well, you have an ace in your hand, so your opponent is 50% less likely to have aces and 25% less likely to have ace king or ace queen. So it's pushing his range toward middling pairs and air. Okay. The other thing is that no matter what the flop is, you always have at least 3 outs, meaning like you always have at least one overcard. Okay. Then the other thing is that on a huge percentage of flops, I think it's like 8% of flops you're going to flop a gut shot. I think something like 25% of the flops you're going to flop a backdoor flush draw or a flush draw. And you just have a tremendous amount of leverage. So, and because you have so much ace king in your range, like, if it's like that 5 deuce deuce board and a king comes off on the turn, that massively benefits your range, and it allows you to keep barreling. So, because your 4-betting range is so well constructed, it allows you to continue to fire barrels at a very high frequency, and there's nothing your opponent can really do about it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Cool. Yeah, man. Okay, let's go back to like the 3-bet that he made the mistake by 3-betting to a size that allows us to 4-bet to 1/6, right? So we opened a 3, he 3-bet to 9. So that is a mistake. So let's pretend we're him and we want a 3-bet. Wait, how do we avoid making that mistake? What should we have done?
You go to like 11 or 12 at that stacked up, and which would force you to go up to like 24 or 26. And then at that point, that would be closer to like 1/5 of your stack.
And so, okay. I know this now we're getting too far in this question, but yeah, but in general, I'll just try to avoid that or put people in those spots would be good.
Yeah, it's mostly putting people in those spots because like the first thing they're doing is not three betting you enough to begin with, right? So you're not really going to get punished that much by them, but you really want to punish them when you're four betting, and it's just trying to find the size that is 1/6 of their stack, or if stacks are just super deep, just default on four betting to about 2.5 times your opponent's three bet.
Okay, sounds good, man. Thanks a lot. Okay, so
Jack eight's an open here.
It is an open.
Yeah,
Okay.
always.
Okay, so we have a gut shot, and me personally, if I have like a gut shot or better, I'm like usually firing, but
always in these heads up spots. So yeah, half
Okay.
pot's solid here. Just go ahead and fire.
And of course that's not good for my actual hand, but for my range, it's probably good card.
So ask yourself this, like, can you fold out pocket eights through pocket deuces here? And random hands like Jack 10 that doesn't have a diamond in it, or King 10, or King Jack, or the other Jack 8 or 10-8 that don't have diamonds in them, can you fold those hands out? Yes.
Yeah.
So you keep firing.
So that would easily be enough combos for him to fold enough of his range or something. Okay.
Yes.
So you bet half pot again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So default is half pot's just like a good default probably when I'm not sure also, I would think.
Yeah, and it's just because of the math of No Limit Texas Hold'em. Like typically, your opponent has like 25% equity against whatever you're value betting with. So that's kind of the odds you want to offer him. You want to offer him 3-1.
I see.
So now, what is the difference between Poker Snowy and your human opponents on this river?
Poker Snowy is going to be more sticky, I think.
Right. But against your human opponents, what have you learned?
They're really capped. They have really wide ranges, and if you bet big on the river, you can force them out of a lot of that range.
Exactly. So most of them pull the trigger way too early, and they either raise with a 9 on the flop or the turn. They would raise with a boat on the flop or the turn. They would rarely slow play a flush on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like never going to call a river bet with an ace if you 2x the pot. Okay, so against a human, it's bombs away here against them. Just make it 48 and all day, every day.
How do you know? So you're doing this really often, really commonly, these 2x bets, I would think.
On this river, yeah, man. This is like about as capped as you can get.
Okay, it's hard for me right now to know when I should be doing that and when not to. So I mean, sometimes I'm just like doing it, but it's kind of blindly. But it's just
usually, like if a draw comes in. Mm-hmm. In a spot where like opponents would frequently raise if they made their draw or if they had a boat because they just can't fathom the idea of waiting one more street to try and get value.
Yeah.
If they just call when that flush comes in, they're super capped and you need to punish them for that on the river.
So basically it's like I have the flushes in my range. I have the boats in my range when they don't.
Exactly. That's really all it is. So you basically bet $6 on the turn to fold out some of Snowy's weaker hands, some of your human opponent's weaker hands. But really, it's like a stock option. It's like, okay, if he calls, I know he's just super capped, and I'm paying
they have
6.
A lot of things like Queen Jack with the Jack of Diamonds on the turn, stuff like that.
And so you're basically paying, or even like a hand like Ace 5 or not Ace 5, like Ace 6 of clubs, right? How happy is that guy to call 48 on the river here?
Right.
Like he's not comfy at all with that bet size. So it's like when a hand at the peak of its range, like he floated with Ace 10, a black ace and a black 10, like that's one of the peak hands in his range, and he's still not happy calling an overbet there. It's like you just have to put max pressure on in this spot.
So in Snowy though, you would not do
In
that.
Snowy, I'd probably just surrender because
Yeah.
Snowy's a gangster and it'll just call you down with like Queen Jack here, like. But
Sure. Okay, check it.
so yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean Snowy's not folding, but I have definitely gotten a lot of human opponents to fold a 9 there too.
Oh, even a 9. Wow, that's awesome. God, they're folding almost everything then.
Because they just go like, oh, Hunter's a nit. He hasn't played a hand in 45 minutes, and he just he turned top set, and he's like trying to value bet me, and they'll just fold a 9.
You know what? That's almost like a little bit of an advantage to all that bad. So I was saying, as hard as it is to wait around for hands, it does make you appear like you're more nitty than you are. I mean,
because you're not like splashing chips into the pot every hand, but then when you play, you're putting in a huge amount of chips. You know, so you're just leveraging that much more. Now, what do you do? So this is exactly what we just talked about.
So, first of all, against a human opponent that doesn't 3-bet too often, like, I mean, I guess Ace King should still always be in my premium hand.
Unless
range.
You're playing against a guy that like literally only 3-bets with aces and kings.
Okay, so I'm definitely always 4-betting this against Snowy, but sizing. Okay,
so what stack size did Snowy start with? What was the effective stack?
Is it 121.50? I guess.
123.50.
Right? 123.50.
Right. So what is
exactly
1/6 of that?
Right? Say what?
What's 1/6 of 123.50?
What's like the quick mental math of that? You do
No, it's just like round it down to 120, right? What's 1/6 of 120?
That was like the 20.
Right. So you need to go just a little bit bigger than that, right? So I would go like $22, $23 here, and that's perfect. That's maximal leverage, and Snowy has no good options.
Man, this is so different than what I was doing. That's good, man. Okay, 23.
And he just can't do anything against you, so he just has to forfeit 9 big blinds because it has no good options.
And give away all his equity. He can't see.
Yeah. I mean, so even if it had a hand like Ace 10 suited or whatever, it just still forfeited a ton of equity, and you were offering it 3-1.
And some people say, like, I was talking to my friend a while ago, and they're saying, let's say I had queens there, and I'm like, oh, he folded, and you're kind of disappointed. He said it's actually not as bad as you think when they just fold and give up all their.
Yeah, because even if they only have one overcard against you, that's 30% equity against your hand.
Yeah.
So just buy that up. Mm-hmm. Force out that equity or force him to defend getting the wrong price.
Especially now, I'm getting after all those years in Florida. Now in Maryland, there's no flop, no drop, so it's so sweet to actually win $7 or $12 or whatever the pre-flop when you just steal the blind.
Whenever you can you just completely deny him his positional advantage, you deny him his equity. It's like nobody wants to play against a guy that's doing that.
Right.
I know you don't want to play against somebody that's just 4-betting your ass when you're 3-betting too much in the big blind. Right. You don't want to be in that spot.
Exactly. So this is
same thing right here.
Now, when you 3-bet, you still don't want to do more. You still want to try the 1/6 thing, or what?
Right, and that's because your opponent is 1 in position and 2, he has implied odds now, right? So stacks are deeper. He has more room to maneuver post flop. So you need to 3-bet a little bit bigger. You're going to go to like $10, $50, $11 here, something like that.
Okay, $11.
Now, what do we know about paired boards?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind that this was another one of those things, like the quarter pot or third pot things, because he can't have a lot of strong hands, and neither can I guess.
Right, and then also like what's the stack to pot ratio here?
So he has the effective stack. It's better than it's a little more than 3-1, but not.
It's like 3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
So so in that spot you want to bet like a little bit less than half the pot on the flop, follow up with like a half pot bet on the turn, and then a river shove.
And so all these little, monsters under the bed type of thoughts, like, well, if he has 9-10 or he has clubs or whatever, I don't want to give him too good of a price. I shouldn't be thinking that way. It's more.
No, it's like you're firing at such a high frequency that Snowy needs to call you on the flop with ace high and like any hand that has one club in it, and every seven and every pair and every hand, even like Jack 10 of hearts, it needs to call. So just bet like 850 here and expect to get called. Like that's really what you need to do. The other thing is like how many combos of 9, 8, and 8, 7 suited are in Snowy's range after we practiced this from last session.
Oh, how many? Say it again. How many 9, 8 suited?
Yeah, how many 9, 8 suited combos?
How many 9, 8 suited combos? There are only 2, right?
How many 8, 7 suited combos?
There should be only 2.
How many combos of quads?
1.
How many combos of sevens full of eights?
3.
Right, and how many combos of ace 8 suited?
2.
Right, so you've got 6, 7, 8, 11 combos total that beat you, and you know it's never calling your 3-bet with aces. It's always 4-betting. So at most 11 combos beat you, right? So so even if you just considered like queens and jacks in your opponent's range, that's 12 combos.
Okay, cool.
So it's like, you know, why do you have so many monsters under your bed?
Yeah, they're not really there if you.
They're not there.
Okay.
So at most he has 11 combos that beat you. That's max, right?
So the math destroys the monsters, sir.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you have an irrational fear. So does everybody else. You got to just beat that with logic.
Mm-hmm.
Just beat the monsters down and down and down until they go away.
Nice.
Now here,
of course, you look at that turn card and you're like, oh, that's horrible turn card. But
this card is not the best card ever. That's for sure. So, Snowy for sure has plenty of club combos. It has 10-9. It has pocket sixes here. And then it has those 11 combos that we talked about, right? So, what I'm saying is like this is not really a great spot to bet and then call a shove. But it might be a better spot to check call, I think. What you should do is click the eval button in Snowy and see what it's going to do. I imagine it would bet like a quarter pot here.
It says its best advice is to check 100% of the time.
At what bet size?
Half pot.
Okay, if you changed it to quarter pot, what's it doing?
Still checking, but the EV is really close to betting. It's like on either half pot or quarter pot, it's the same. The EV of checking is 11.50, and betting is 11.30. So. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of like I thought. Like when I get confused in these spots, it's usually because the equity is really, really, really close together. As close as you can get.
So I'm fine with checking here because I think you can induce Snowy and better human opponents to stab with like ace of clubs hands.
Okay.
Or like a hand with a 9 in it. So like your more passive opponents, you're kind of giving them a little bit of equity. So I would maybe like against a really fishy 2-5 player, I would bet like a quarter pot there, and I think that would be like a money sizing.
Okay.
And then here it's like same thing. You're just checking.
Yeah, we get the two of the worst. We get a really bad run out, basically.
Yeah, it's a horrible run out.
Either beats us or kills our value.
And I mean, Snowy's so good, man. It knows that it knows that it needs to be potting this river here with a whole bunch of stuff. Here it's like Snowy's so balanced it doesn't really matter what you do here. Yeah, man. I would fold as a default.
Yeah, it says 80% of the time fold and call 20% of the time.
Yeah, I would fold as a default.
What does it mean, by the way, when I go to the eval now? When someone else bets, like it says like 0.36 pot up there. Like I don't understand what that means. Does that mean the price I'm getting or something? Or? I don't really know, but.
Oh no! That would be like if you shoved. If you shoved, that would now be 0.36 pot or whatever.
Oh, okay, all right. I'd probably fold then.
Yeah, you're just folding, especially against a human, because a human is not thinking about ranges the way we're thinking.
they're
So
gonna check back their showdown, their like marginal showdown stuff, and they're gonna bet there.
yeah,
They'll even check back aces a lot of times. I mean, an ace there sometimes when the ace hit the river, they're like, well, you could have a flush or something.
right.
like
When
that.
they're just
Yeah.
they're very illogical people.